So we're talking about something near and dear to my heart. This concept around why maybe one hip goes bad and the other one's just great and we need it replaced, like what the heck happened? Here is a common scenario. So this is part of your long bone, your femur, and this is your acetabulum, the space where the head of the femur goes in. And you can see I'm pulling it out, but that's where it lives. And it's happy like this. It's called centration. It's in its happy little home, and the cartilage around the top of this and on the inside of this is designed to allow that perfect movement. It's just a nice fit. Well, here's what happens in life. We have muscles in the front of the thigh. We might call them the quadricep, and the outside of the thigh we might call them the abductors, and then the back of the thigh, the hamstrings, and the inside of the thigh, the adductors. And they all work in unison so that when they're pulling and contracting, ultimately what happens is this femoral head stays happily in its home. We call that centration. Now, you may be going along in life, running around a corner in the ice and slip and fall, and boom, you fall super hard on the outside of your hip. You get bruised, you limp for 2 weeks, it hurts like heck, but slowly it gets better. However, you notice that the strength of your hip, maybe over time to elevate an abduction, starts to get weak, and you don't notice it. You just move along in life, and 2 or 3 years goes by, and now you're having a hard time maybe lifting your leg up to put your pants on, or having a heck of a time standing on that one leg to create balance while you put your other pant leg in, and you just blow it off, right? We think, oh, that's just life. But what's happened in this scenario is this muscle was initially irritated and maybe was so strained and it healed stiff and you never did anything to help it move again. Or maybe it even became inhibited. That's a whole nother video. We'll talk about that later. But what's happening now is you have this force coupling of the front, the side, the back, and the inside. That force couple has now been disrupted. Instead of this being able to produce as much force with these muscles to be symmetrical with these other muscles, now that's not the case. So what's happened is this joint no longer is held up in its perfect home by all of its participating muscles, and it might be a little off kilter or a little off center, and its movement is a little limited, and that what begins the process of wearing down the inside of the joint itself. And you let this go for 7, 8, 10 years, all of a sudden you find yourself in the doctor's office and they're saying, gosh, you need a hip replacement. Like, what? How did that happen? Well, you weren't paying attention to the fact that you couldn't bend your hip out and up and in and forward. You'd lost that mobility. Why? Because you simply didn't do it. And we see this time and time again. So this is another form of osteoarthritis that happens when the labrum and the other cartilage wears down because this hip no longer is moving freely and symmetrically. You know, I was thinking the other day, what analogy could I make to have you better understand this? And while this may seem odd, when you diaper a little child, right, and you make sure you pull up one part and the other part in the front and the back part, and then you pin them just tight, just fine. Now all of a sudden that diaper is doing its thing. It's positioned itself right over where it needs to be positioned. But let's say your little one has been running around and this diaper comes undone. All of a sudden it swings over to the right. And then what happens? Well, those of you who are parents understand what happens. It's no longer sitting in its proper home. In this case, you're going to have some mess to clean up. The same is true if all of a sudden these 4 muscles of the hip are not pulled up and happy, all working. If one of them is out to lunch or weak, you're going to have a difference in that collective sling type mechanism, if you will. And this is a gross estimation, if you will, but I want you to understand the importance of getting every part of your body moving freely. And we're going to talk about what I've developed as a 2-bounce stretch protocol, specifically so that you can move every single part of your body in the directions it's intended to move. And I've designed a program that takes less than 4 minutes a day to do that. So more on that later. But just wanted to give you a perspective about why it is so important to move your hip and to take care of it. If you fall and hurt yourself, then get to the massage therapist, get to the chiropractor, get to the physical therapist. Get that fixed. Don't just learn to live with it. Thank you.